Hello and welcome to Latitude, a new weekly show at Frontline on India's foreign policy and global affairs. I'm Nirupama Subramanian. On April 22nd, terrorists attacked tourists visiting the picturesque Baisaran meadow in Pahalgam in Kashmir. It's an area inaccessible except by foot. Horrific stories have emerged about the gun-toting attackers pulling out men and ascertaining their religious identity and then shooting them execution style. As India grieves its 26 dead, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was speaking in Bihar, and he spoke these words in English, said that he would go after the terrorists and their accomplices and their conspirators to the end of the earth. India has already taken some initial steps, such as cancelling visas for Pakistanis, asking them to return, asking Indians to come back if they're visiting Pakistan. The Atari Wagah land crossing between the two countries has been shut down. But the most important step that India has taken is to put the Indus Waters Treaty, hailed as a model treaty for water sharing between two countries. It was finalized and signed in 1960. This treaty has been put in abeyance. My guest today is Ajai Sahni, a specialist on counterterrorism in Delhi. He heads the Institute of Conflict Management. Their special site on conflicts in all of South Asia is called South Asia Terrorism Portal. It's a go-to site for every student of terrorism, counterterrorism. It has a lot of information, and if you haven't been there already, I recommend that you do check it out. Mr. Ajai Sahni, welcome to Latitude. It's great to have you on the show. Let me begin by asking you about India's decision to put the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. This is a treaty that has endured so much hostility over the years. Over the last 70 years, it has seen wars, it has seen terrorist attacks, but this has gone on. This is something that has given some kind of predictability, if you can call it, to India-Pakistan relationships, to the India-Pakistan relationship. So my question to you is, was this the right step in terms of strategic, non-kinetic options available to India? It's an international treaty, and signaling that India wants no more of it is a huge step. So what are the strategic objectives here? Because you can't really stop the water right away. And internationally, is there a reputational risk for a move like this?
Well, I think in terms of messaging, this is perhaps the strongest of these measures, that the 5 measures that have currently been announced. It will certainly has already created a tremendous reaction in Pakistan. We must also recall that India has repeatedly sought a review of the treaty. We have emphasized that this is an unequal treaty, that it has cost India far more than, or India has ceded far more than India should have given. Given all that, I think this is a crisis that allows this to be brought more to the center stage of the discourse. We must also understand that this is not the abrogation, as you said, of the treaty. This is only a holding in abeyance. So it will create psychological pressures more than anything else. It may also, depending on how long this suspension continues or is supportable. Obviously, Pakistan will go to the International Court, to the World Bank, which is the mediator in the treaty, and seek some kind of resolution to its advantage or the restoration of the treaty. That time could be used by India to materialize or to complete some of the projects that have been blocked due to legal action or legal appeals by Pakistan. So some of those projects could be completed. Some limited flow could be diverted or checked, including the flow of waters from the rivers allocated to India, where we still have a loss of or unutilized flow into Pakistan of at least 5 to 7% of the waters that are right.
And here we are talking about the Ravi, the Byas, and the Satluj.
The Satluj, yes. Yeah. So even here, we do not exploit the fullest quantum of the waters that are allocated to us. As far as the western rivers are concerned, the three rivers allocated to Pakistan, there are a number of run-of river projects which are midway or are near completion or are proposed, which are entirely within our rights, but which have been blocked by legal action by Pakistan. And this suspension could be taken as a moment to push these projects forward or fast track these projects. Now, when we talk about fast track these projects, you must understand that that is a matter of years. And given the Indian record, could be a matter of decades. Many of our existing projects in Jammu Kashmir should have been completed in 99, 2000 and are just about approaching completion today. In any event, the point is, this is not something that can be done in the weeks or materialize in the weeks, but it is certainly something that will, shall we say, hit the, a raw nerve in Pakistan, because Pakistan is today in a situation where it is already suffering a deficit on the average of roughly 30% in terms of its water needs. So even the legitimate withholding of our rights would impact, however marginally, on Pakistan. And if we push or fast track those projects which are within our right, but which have been contested, or efforts to delay them through legal action have been taken up by the Pakistanis, I think that would be significant in terms of the impact on Pakistan. So that's the only measure that is really something that, and you must understand that, the harshest responses have come to that move. They've said that any curtailment of the flow of waters will be seen as an act of war.
Yeah, that's what Pakistan has said.
That's what they've said.
So where does it go from there? I mean, now is there who controls the next step in the escalation, really?
They have said that if there is a curtailment of water flows,
right.
And as I said, the curtailment of water flows is something that will happen, in the years rather than in the days. So we are not looking at, as far as this particular move is concerned, we are not looking at a proximate crisis. We are looking at extremely aggressive posturing by both sides. There is no material content. This is very aggressive posturing. This is messaging. It is nothing more than that.
Right. So, as you say, it also creates a lot of psychological impact on Pakistan, uncertainty for them about the water, especially. And, they are an agricultural country, and it's going to certainly have an impact if the waters are curtailed. It will be a huge impact. Beyond punishing Pakistan, what should be the objectives of any Indian response to this sort of thing? Punishment or, creating a psychological crisis in Pakistan can't be a strategic objective, isn't it? I mean, so what are we looking for in terms of a goal here? What do we actually want to happen?
I really don't know. I think we're getting everything we want. We've brought terrorism in, we've almost completely contained terrorism. Of course, some of the government's projections and statements have been, in terms of security or strategic assessment, nonsensical. We have zero terrorism, peace has been restored, normalcy has been restored. This is not the language of security assessments. This is the language of political posture. This is boastful language. This is exaggerated language. It should never have been used. Unfortunately, there is this constant pressure to sort of feed a particular electoral constituency. And so this nonsense is spoken. And it exposes the government shall we say, uh, the accusation of failure. If you say zero terrorism, even if one person is killed, you have failed. So you should never have said zero terrorism. You should never have said normalcy. You should emphasize the realities of the situation, that we have come down from 4,000 fatalities to 127 fatalities, 4,000 fatalities, 4,011 fatalities in 2001 to 127 fatalities last year. We are now dominating Jammu Kashmir. But dominance does not imply complete absence of terrorism. We are moving towards that. Our forces have got, and this is actually an element of what has occurred on the 22nd. It is because these terrorist forces can no longer attack relatively well-protected and hardened targets all across Jammu and Kashmir that they have taken a target which falls under what you could call an unspoken or unwritten contract or compact between the Kashmiri population and the terrorist groups till now, that the tourist industry would not be targeted or touched. Tourists have been killed in the past, ones and twos. We've had, just from 2000 to the present, we've had 44 targeted fatalities as far as tourists are concerned in Jammu Kashmir. This includes pilgrims. Now, pilgrims are not part of this. Hindu pilgrims are not part of this compact. Hindu pilgrims are fair game. You must understand, also as far as security assessments are concerned, the Amarnath Yatra has been completely securitized. People talk about intelligence failure and security failure as far as this particular incident is concerned. And now, every incident where terrorists succeed constitutes a security and intelligence failure after the event. Hindsight is perfect. But the reality is that security deployments are made in terms of a trajectory of terrorism. They are made in terms of availability of force. They are made in terms of the ground situation. Now, the ground situation was that terrorists will not target tourist locations, and they have not done so in substantial measure for decades. Now, tomorrow they'll target someone else. They'll go and target a remote village somewhere and wipe out the population. Jammu has always had fatalities every year without interruption. But last year they went and there was this flurry of 4 attacks, including the Riyasi attack where 9, I think, pilgrims were killed in that bus incident. And everybody said, oh, but everything has shifted here. This is an intelligence failure. This is a security failure. The reality was that Jammu had seen declining terrorism. Forces had been diluted in terms of security assessment. The adversary is a thinking adversary. He's not a robot that he's going to keep on coming and having himself killed in front of you in your areas of, greatest strength and dominance. He is going to look for vulnerabilities. And in any state as large as Jammu Kashmir, with a population as dispersed, a terrain as challenging, they will find a vulnerability. Today, at that point of time, it was Jammu or certain areas of Jammu. Today, it is Pahalgam. Tomorrow, it will be somewhere else. They will keep on finding some kind of vulnerability or the other. And they will have some successes. So this needs to be taken into consideration when we are talking about incidents of this nature.
So my question really was that if you're going to punish Pakistan for this, what is the goal that you want achieved from that punishment?
Okay, as far as punishing Pakistan, the goal is absolute deterrence. That the Pakistani state should end support to terrorism, should end should eliminate the presence of training camps, terrorist organizations, should take action against the most prominent terrorist leaders currently and openly operating on Pakistani soil. This is the objective of deterrence, or the objective of the state from the Indian point of view. Now we could go into the question of how can this be achieved?
I was going to ask you that we did take uh, steps that were sort of higher than this, putting this international treaty in abeyance, the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. We actually did kinetic responses. We carried out a surgical strike. I think in the past also surgical strikes were undertaken, but uh, or strikes across the LOC were undertaken. But in 2016, when the Modi government responded to Uri, it was publicized, perhaps for the first time, and it became, a kind of calling card for the government that look, we've done this muscular thing, and we've gone and struck across the board, across the LOC. And then in 2019, of course, you had the response to the Pulwama suicide bombing, in which 40 CRPF men died. And there was an air strike on Balakot in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan against the target was supposed to be a Jaish-e-Mohammed madrasa. Now, even after these strikes, which were, of course, very visible, very strong responses, they were military responses. It did not deter Pakistan. So, what can be done differently now? I mean, Indus Waters Treaty is one thing, but do you expect the government to do something more after this that will actually create a deterrence, the deterrence that we want?
See, first of all, one-off events, however much damage they may or may not do across the border, are not going to be a sustainable deterrent. Pakistan will recover. Now you can also bring into question the actual content of these two initiatives that you spoke of.
Mm.
How much damage did they actually do? We see no real evidence of dramatic impact as far as the cross-border, the surgical strikes are concerned. We can get into the question of how effective these two initiatives actually were. Now, we have very little evidence of the actual damage done by these surgical strikes across the border. And as you say, while surgical strikes in this case were publicized for their own partisan political objectives, it is not the case that surgical strikes hadn't occurred earlier. And if there is a succession of surgical strikes that occurred, and here was one that was publicized, the earlier succession had not deterred Pakistan. Why would this? Now come to Balakot. Now it is, I think, widely contested that they actually hit the target.
Mm.
And we have seen no evidence that they actually hit the target. And we have seen at least some evidence, not by presented by Pakistan, but by independent agencies using GPS systems, that suggests that the target was actually missed. All right, that happens. That's not a problem. But what about Pakistan's retaliation? The next day they come and they knock down one of our planes. They capture our pilot. The plane falls into their territory. We claim, of course, that we also shot down one of their planes, but I've seen no evidence of that. So why would they be deterred by why has this great myth come across that the surgical strikes, and by the way, after the surgical strikes, there was an escalation in terrorism. So how was it a deterrent? Oh, but we have finished terrorism after 2016. We had actually come down to a figure of 121 fatalities in 2012 in Jammu and Kashmir. 121 fatalities, the lowest till now. We still haven't gone back to that level. And then there was an escalation. And the escalation continued after the surgical strikes. Then in 2019, there was this contraction because the whole state was just put under, 24-hour curfews for months at end. But then there was an escalation again. And slowly there has thereafter been a de-escalation. And the de-escalation is the result of effective counterterrorism responses by the security forces. They are doing precisely what they were doing prior to 2014, and which had brought the terrorism-linked fatalities down to 121 in 2012. So whatever has been achieved in Jammu and Kashmir is a consequence of sustained security force operations. It has nothing to do with Balakot. It has nothing to do with surgical strikes.
But
And
is
it has
there,
nothing to do with the deterrence of Pakistan.
I was actually going to ask you this question later about, but I'll bring it up now. Uh, what has this actually achieved for Pakistan, this attack?
It keeps the movement alive. It's a dying movement. Today, the situation in Jammu and Kashmir is being projected as, well, as I said, we said it before, zero terrorism, peace has been restored, 2.3 million crore, sorry, 23 million tourists went to Kashmir last year. More will come this year. This thing, it means that the entire, shall we say, momentum of the jihad in Jammu and Kashmir is being lost. Now, I can't do anything very big anywhere else because all the other areas have been substantially dominated. And killing one person here and two people there doesn't seem to be producing any results. So take the most vulnerable target, ramp up the numbers, get 25, 26, 30 people killed. At least it will appear to people who are of this mindset and ilk that something is still there. We are still committed to protecting our jugular vein.
But is there a danger here for Pakistan? I mean, did Pakistan not uh, account for this risk that India could come back with a bigger retaliation than before? And that would be a danger to Pakistan itself, the state of Pakistan. They
Of
surely
course, it's
would
a
have
danger.
taken
Look,
that into account.
look, the entire project is a danger to Pakistan. I had
Yeah.
written this more than 20 years ago that as far as India is concerned, Kashmir is a holding operation.
Mhm.
If we hold on to Kashmir, Pakistan will founder against its own overextension and its ambitions. We don't have to do anything much. We just have to hold on to Kashmir. And that has actually, in slow processes, happened. Pakistan today, they said they would balkanize India. They are on the threshold of balkanization. They said they would economically ruin India. They are on the edge of economic ruination. So as far as, you see, first of all, the problem with us is that we look at these things only after a major incident. And then our whole focus is, why now? In any ongoing protracted conflict, every time a shot is fired, you don't raise the same question again. Why now?
Hmm.
It's because Asif Munir made a speech in and he was ranting. Nonsense. I think 90% of people or 99% of people who are talking about Asif Munir's speech haven't even heard it. Asif Munir said nothing that had not been said hundreds of times earlier. If he spoke of Kashmir as the jugular vein for Pakistan, well, Musharraf also spoke of it as the jugular vein for Pakistan. And Musharraf has many, many supporters in India.
Yeah.
So there's nothing new. He said nothing. He spoke of Pakistan as a great civilization and a better people. We are Muslims, they are Hindus, we are basically different. But aren't we saying the same thing? Aren't we saying we are Hindus, they are Muslims, they are different? There is nothing in this speech. Number two, the speech predates the incident by 3 or 4 days. 4 days. Do you think an operation of this scale could have been set up in 4 days? Do you think Pakistan has such control and dominance that they can set up an incident of this nature in 4 days? That Munir made a speech and these guys came and bumped off 26 people. If they could do that, there would be hundreds of incidents of this nature in Kashmir today.
Also,
So much of the interpretation, if I may complete this,
yeah.
Much of the commentary, much of the interpretation is based on absolute ignorance and a failure to recognize that this is a protracted conflict. And in this we are so obsessed with the idea of projecting our victimhood that we fail to recognize that in this case, we are not the victims, we are the victors. We are winning this war. We have already covered an enormous distance towards victory. We are in the last phases. Pakistan is losing this war. This does not take away from the tragedy of losing 26 people, innocent lives, or the hundreds of lives that have been lost before. And this is a very, this is a natural human reaction. When 26 people die at once, the shock of it is enormous. But if one or two people are dying every few days, and the total comes up to 30 and 40, it doesn't bother us.
Which is what was happening
31
in Jammu.
civilians were killed last year.
Yeah.
31 civilians were killed last year. And another 29 security force personnel. That's South Asia terrorism portal data.
Yeah.
Government data may be slightly different by few numbers. So you've got to see this as part of a trajectory. Even though the immediate tragedy must agitate us, you must locate it in the context of this protracted war and understand that we are not losing this protracted war. We have come down from a situation where 4,011 people were killed, as I said, in 2001, and last year just 127 people were killed. 127 people, including 69 terrorists. Now, the loss of 127 people is also terrible. It is unacceptable. But when you compare it to the thousands who were killed every year for 16 years when this was a high-intensity conflict, you must understand it is a symbol of victory. Now, to come back to your question, doesn't Pakistan realize the consequences? Well, no. I'll take you back to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who said, we will eat grass, but we will have the bomb. They have ruined their country. Their people are now actually in a situation where a large population is eating grass, or in a situation comparable to eating grass. But the elites don't feel the pain. The elites don't feel the pain. The army doesn't feel the pain. The Fauji Foundation doesn't feel the pain, which is, controls probably half the GDP of the country.
So in a situation where, Asim Munir is clearly seen as a villain in Pakistan, and if this is going to impose more hardship on Pakistan, where does that leave his leadership? So I'm just wondering if this is not going to this attack is not going to play back on his leadership and, destroy him in that sense.
No, the attack itself will not. The attack itself will reinforce his visible commitment to the Kashmir cause, which is a popular cause as far as very substantial segments of the Pakistan population are concerned. So there may be a momentary advantage. Now, depending on what we do over time as a response to this attack, if we are effective, then he will be weakened. Not only he will be weakened, the army will be weakened. This is important. It's not about Munir. I keep on trying to emphasize this. Munir is not a departure from the past. He may be a mullah general. He may be a hafiz. He may know half the Quran or the whole of the Quran by heart. I don't care. He is not doing anything that is different from his predecessors, from a succession of his predecessors. The Kashmir cause is a cause that is at the core of the Pakistan army and substantially at the core of Pakistani politics. To focus in on Munir, to demonize Munir as something unique, will serve no purpose except the purposes of partisan politics in India. Right. Because whoever comes next is not going to do anything different. But coming back to the loss of credibility, not because of Kashmir or what is happening in Kashmir, but because of the internal situation and what the Pakistan army has done over the last several years, and particularly with Imran Khan, but also with other prime ministers preceding, the continuous intervention in politics, and then the loss of the increasing loss of control in Balochistan and the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa areas, where insurgencies and terrorism are taking a daily toll. The Pakistani army is today at the lowest ebb of its credibility. As I said, this may be impacted by our responses, depending on how effective our responses are. and how ineffective their counters are. Because if we do a Balakot and our plane is shot down and our pilot is captured, then I'm afraid nobody is deterred. Far from that, they are encouraged.
Right. So you said that it'll all depend on what we do in the coming days and how effective will be our response. So what is an effective response according to you? What could
I will not go into this in any great detail, but let me just put it that as far as I'm concerned, the most productive option would be covert operations.
right?
These surgical strikes and balakots will invite comparable retaliation as long as it is a localized operation. They will also do localized operations, and their capacities are comparable to ours. So we will knock down two of theirs, they will knock down two of ours, or it may be three or two, but they will project 30 and we will project 60. You know, that's how it's going to be. This is a theater intended for the domestic audiences. I control my domestic audience, they control their domestic audience. So none of this is going to have any impact. The other option that everyone is screaming about is war. Well, I think that's the last thing either country can afford. There will be no victors in this war. This is not going to be a quick surgical operation for a few days and we are triumphant. Please note that, I mean, a country as strong as Russia compared to Ukraine thought it was going into a short surgical operation, and 3 years later it's still bogged down there. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost on both sides. And both countries, I mean, one country has been demolished more or less. The other country has lost lives, has suffered enormously in its economy. So apart from actual, any war today with Pakistan would immediately draw in China, even if not as a active participant with Pakistan, but at least in terms of mobilizing along the border. If they mobilize along the border, we have to reinforce along the border. What will remain on the Western Front for us will not be an overwhelming force as far as comparisons with Chinese force, with Pakistani forces are concerned. So don't think that, oh, we are the big power, we are 8 times Pakistan size, we will walk into, Islamabad and Lahore and Rawalpindi. This is not an easy war to win under the given geopolitical situation. So war, I think, is not an intelligent or rational option for us.
And despite all the unpredictability of the Trump administration, there may not be the kind of support that we expect from the US for this kind of a military response.
What will we do with support?
Yeah.
Are they going to send their fleets here in our support? Are they going to give us free weapons? Are they going to put boots on the ground? No. They will talk. Trump will say, yes, we think India is doing the right thing against these terrible terrorists and terrorist sponsors. So what? Eventually, I have to fight my own wars. Nobody is going to stand by me. The only country that has ever stood by us was Russia. And they stood by us in 1971. When the 7th Fleet was sent in here, they have stood by us again and again. But they are not in a position today. They are totally immersed in the war in Ukraine. So let me be very clear, we have no effective friends in the international community. People will make good noises, but it is unlikely that they are going to give us anything in terms of material or effective support.
So do you think, after these highly visible responses in 2016 and 2019 or publicized responses, we are kind of caught in a response trap, as it were, that there's no option but to do something. We have to be, Prime Minister Modi has to be seen as doing something. It's now imperative. It's that imperative that has to be served now.
Look, this is the biggest challenge today because of this boastfulness, because of this big talking. That's what has trapped them. As I said before, the most effective options will be covert. But the essence of covert operations is that they are covert. If you go talking about them, they will lose their impact. You can do enormous harm to Pakistan, but you cannot speak of that harm. And the problem with this government is that they want to cash in terms of partisan political gain on everything that happens. If they are dead bodies, I want to be seen with them. I want to be seen with the coffins draped in the Indian flag. If there is a operation, minor or major, I want to be seen as its architect. They have trapped themselves in a situation where being seen to have done something is more important than having done something effective. I have no solution for that. This is their failure. This is their calculus. This is their problem. And if this government is today in a bind, it is its own, a bind of its own creation. Otherwise, there are multiple options available. Pakistan is at its weakest today. And India is relatively in a very strong position on any number of parameters. It is very easy for us to accelerate the processes of weakening Pakistan in many dimensions: political, the ongoing insurgencies, the ongoing terrorist movements, economic. All this can be targeted, but it must be targeted covertly, and you cannot strut about saying, "Look, I did this, I did."
So there is a view that, and it's prevalent even in the Indian intelligence community, that this attack was actually carried out to avenge the attack on the Jafar Express in Balochistan, in which the passengers, some 400 passengers, were taken hostage, and undetermined number have been killed, and it was a long standoff, and that this was probably an act of retaliation for that. Would you agree with that? In the sense that they have openly blamed us for it, irrespective of the.
No, they have openly blamed us for the entire Balochistan movement. They are blaming us for every operation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa by the TTP.
Yes.
They say we are handling the TTP.
Exactly.
We are arming them. So why do I have to wait for the Balochistan, this particular operation in Balochistan? Yes, it was a particularly devastating operation. But if I am supporting Balochistan, and they are convinced that I am supporting the Baloch independence movement, and they are convinced that we are behind the TTP, then they have a ongoing and a continuing motive to hit us. So I'm sorry, this is people who have evidently no real evidence coming to them, no intelligence actually flowing to them, sitting there and speculating, it might be this, it might be that. Munir said, jugular vein, that is why this happened. Oh, Balochistan happened. They are trying to, Vance was here, so this happened. This is people after the event trying to create correct connections. This is not intelligence. Intelligence means that we have somebody sitting in military headquarters who has told us that a decision was taken after the Balochistan train attack that we would do something important or significant or dramatic in Kashmir. That's intelligence. Let anyone in the intelligence community come and suggest that yes, that we did have hard intelligence of this nature. No, beyond that, everything is possible. It could be, some people say, because Pakistan is in so much internal trouble, so it is doing it. When Pakistan was not in internal trouble, they were doing so much more to harm India. It's ex post rationalization. It's not intelligence. It's ex post rationalization. And there are all these people sitting around saying, oh, it could be this, it could be that, it could be anything. But it's an ongoing war. It's a war that has gone on for more than 35 years. Every time somebody is killed, you don't sit down and start saying, why are they doing this? They're
So
doing it for the same reason that they've been doing it for 35 years. Because they want to take Kashmir. They have no other instrumentalities but terrorism. And everything they do is intended to promote that end. Is it effective in doing so? That's a different matter. Obviously, it has failed. But they're clinging to the last hope that they may be able to revive the movement, or at least not allow the movement to die. Perhaps 5 years down the line, 10 years. Because if the movement completely dies, it will become nearly impossible to revive it. That is to be understood. It is much easier to sustain an ongoing movement than to start or restart a movement that has ended. So they would like to keep it going somehow or the other. And this is one more operation to keep the movement going in Jammu and Kashmir, and hope that somehow or the other, some future situation in India will allow them to escalate to a point where Kashmir once again blows up into a mass insurgency.
Yeah, but this, the bigness of this attack, as you pointed out earlier, the victims who were tourists, and earlier there was this compact that tourists would not be, they would not be targeted. So the significance of that is, you're saying there's no particular significance to
No, not at all. Not at all. Let me tell you why. First of all, they targeted the tourists because, one, they want to disrupt this whole idea of normalcy in Jammu and Kashmir. Two, because it is the only soft target that they could access. Number three, please understand, in any terrorist attack, you cannot calculate how many people are going to be killed. Any terrorist attack that occurs in Jammu and Kashmir could kill 30 people. They're coming with automatic weapons. They're coming with explosives. They're coming with grenades.
So it's always going to be opportunistic.
Just one moment. The actual death count is a consequence of precisely what you were going to say. Opportunities, the ground situation, accident. Look at the Riyasi bus attack. 2 people were actually shot.
Yeah.
Including, unfortunately, the driver. And the bus ran off into the khad. So another 7 people were killed. Not by the terrorists, but now you could say the bus had stopped after the first firing. Perhaps all 58 people in that bus. I think the number was 58, but I'm not sure. But the entire busload could have been killed.
Exactly.
But it didn't happen. Did Army headquarters in Rawalpindi say that only kill 2 people, only kill 9 people when they roll into the khad? These are not things that can be planned. You cannot plan that 26 people will be killed. All you can do is instruct your people. Here is, and that is also not something that comes from Rawalpindi or from the handlers, whether they're Lashkar handlers or whoever it is. The actual strike team is given generic instructions that go into areas which are vulnerable, recce them, stake them out, make a plan, because nobody sitting in Rawalpindi or can sort of detail the minutiae of how this is going to go about. This is done by the local team. So they will do the recce. They will say, all right, this place is vulnerable, and I think we can do a big incident. But depending on circumstances, this incident could be 2 people, it could have been 80. You have heard so many stories of people saying, oh, we were lucky because for the moment we just went off here. My bus got delayed. My horses didn't come. Otherwise, we would also have been killed. So it could be 26, it could have been 2, it could have been 200. So this nonsense, that's what I'm trying to say. Trying to impose a pattern after the event does not explain the event.
You know, we've been speaking about, you know, orders from the Lashkar or whoever. But let me put to you, you know, in Pulwama, there was a claim by Jaish-e-Mohammed that they carried out the bombing. And Jaish-e-Mohammed, everybody knows, is based in Bhalpur and they are in Pakistan. In the Mumbai attacks, there were all these phone records. This one has been claimed by this group called the Resistance Force, which our
Current.
security agencies believe that it's a proxy of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. How much of an evidence gap is there between, you know, this? I mean, how much of an evidence gap needs to be filled between the TRF and uh, calling it an attack by the Lashkar-e-Toiba?
Depends on whom you are going to. If you are trying to tell me that we have to prove this connection to Pakistan, then there is no quantum of evidence. Even till today, the whole world has come to the conclusion. Two people have been convicted, or at least one person has been convicted. Headley has been convicted in America in a system that has got nothing to do with India and India's allegation. In the 2611 case, that person's testimony tells us that this was all planned in Pakistan. It was planned by the Pakistani army and everything. We have been telling Pakistan that please bring all these people to justice. They say, but you have no evidence. Who are you trying to prove it to? Or we are trying to prove it to the international community. The international community doesn't care. They're not bothered with your problems. So what you have to understand is proof is not the issue here. Proof will only become an issue if one or more of these people is taken alive and is brought before an Indian court. Then the issue of evidence comes in. And then the issue of evidence of linkages also comes in, their testimonies, their confessions, their whatever, and whatever materials are seized. But this is 35 years. Hundreds of thousands of weapons have been captured and recovered. They have Pakistani markings, or there is a route that traces them through Pakistan. Hundreds and hundreds of Pakistanis have been captured or killed.
So,
if you keep on saying, oh, but there is not enough evidence, the answer to that is you don't want to face the evidence. That's all. I have no doubt in my mind. And I have no doubt also in my mind that no lines need to be drawn. Because this is not something that is going to be adjudicated by an independent authority, by an unbiased authority. This is not up for adjudication. And we have to win this war on our own. Yes, there is an international campaign that is required. We need to convince the outside world, etc., etc. It's all true. But in the end, we have to fight and win this on our own. We have to know what we know, be confident that we are not lying to ourselves, that we are not making false allegations for political mileage, and then take action against those who we have identified through evidence that is satisfactory to us. That's what needs to be done.
Just a couple of questions more. I just wanted to, you know, you did say that all this thing about intelligence failure and, you know, so it would be wrong to say that there was an intelligence failure as such in this particular case, because, you know, we say it after the fact all the time, although people are killed all the time. But still, with so many tourists coming, you know, and tourism also has been weaponized in a sense as to show that the state has become normal. With all this happening, shouldn't there have at least been an anticipation that here there are these thousands and thousands or lakhs and lakhs of tourists visiting all the time, the Tulip Garden, or, you know, this particular meadow, or that some other place in Pahalgam or Anantnag or anywhere, and they're all sitting ducks. So maybe we should do something to you know, to prevent something that could happen. So in that sense, you know, anticipating this, was there a failure in anticipating this, would you say?
This is this is a policy failure. This is a propaganda failure. This is a political failure. where your whole objective is to, whatever the ground situation, whatever it costs, whatever the lives lost, I have to prove that we've got zero terrorism, we've got normalcy. This is a partisan political objective. And that is why you are letting people, you are propagating this so that more and more tourists comes. And you are ignoring the security imperatives. Number two, there will always be vulnerabilities. Always, as long as a terrorist movement or even small groups of or individual terrorists are there will be vulnerabilities. I mean, I remember that IRA message that was sent to Margaret Thatcher. You have to be lucky all the time. We have to be lucky just once.
Yeah.
So they will be lucky from time to time. Now, please understand, if there had been an intelligent approach to this tourist influx, what they would have done, and what I think they should do now, is ensure that the tourists who come, and of course the flow will be much smaller, at least for a certain amount of time, that the tourists who come go to 4, 5, 6 designated areas around, say, Pahalgam. And those 4, 5, 6 areas are reasonably securitized. Not that you can go in any direction you like. And security, you must understand, a decision to provide security is based on a past experience, based on availability of force, and it is based on the flow of current intelligence. We don't have unlimited force. We can't put a cop behind every little group of tourists. It can't be done. We just don't have the numbers. So we have to circumscribe tourist movement. But I don't want to do that. I want everyone to, we got 2.3 crore tourists last year. I want 3 crore tourists this year. And I don't just want them, it's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's giving people livelihoods. Money is flowing into Jammu Kashmir. But I'm not bothered about that so much. I'm bothered about the fact that I am going to project this as a great political victory of the removal of Article 370.
The
motives are wrong. You are not looking at Kashmir through a objective security lens, or for that matter, an objective political lens or objective economic lens. You are looking for it in terms of partisan political advantage. And if you keep on subordinating the national interests and security interests to partisan political objectives, you will enhance vulnerabilities. You will enhance vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities will always be there. Let it be clear, as long as Pakistan continues to support this movement. We have come from the thousands of terrorists who used to be rampaging across Jammu Kashmir to estimates of 50 and 60 and 70. But even if there are 5, 6, and 7, an incident can be engineered. And even with 5, 6, and 7, a very large incident, depending on opportunity, depending on chance, depending on luck, can be engineered.
I'll just ask one more question. Over the last few years since Article 370 was removed and a security blanket has been thrown over Kashmir, and the number of incidents are obviously down because of that, and Jammu has seen more attacks. Is there a need for us to rethink how we see our own security of Jammu and Kashmir? In the sense, do we need to do something differently?
In strategic terms, no. We are prevailing. The grids where they are left untampered are working. There has been no escalation in Jammu. Annual fatalities have remained at the same level. This impression that Jammu has had a problem was because of a cluster of 4 incidents in June, July last year. And after that, very little has happened. Individual incidents have taken place, but mostly those incidents are of security force initiated incidents in which terrorists have been killed. And the security forces have taken a few hits as a result of their own the vulnerability of a group that is in pursuit. So there is a lot of misconception around here. Now, you talked about a security blanket. And a security blanket gives you the impression of, well, I can put my head under a blanket and my feet under the blanket, and there's no warm air coming in. There's nothing called a secure. I mean, we use the term security blanket, but it's not a blanket. It's a net at best. And something or the other will creep through that net. And it's a very effective net. I can't emphasize this enough. We have come from the thousands of fatalities a year to 127 fatalities.
But would
We
you
had
say
come down
even,
to 121 fatalities in 2012.
but
So
would you
this is
say that
working.
100 people infiltrating the border?
100 people are not infiltrating the border.
This is what army generals have said. I mean, the
Not
northern
anymore. Not in the last years. Infiltration is down to middle double digits or lower double digits. There have been months in which they have said zero infiltration. I have no way to validate these figures, but there have been assertions of zero infiltration, single digit infiltration. But the point is, a few people are coming on. If you see the estimates of terrorist strength in the valley in Jammu Kashmir today, they're talking about 59, 60 terrorists. I used the figure that was a little older. It was 59 terrorists. 59, 59 outsiders and 17 locals. And more recent figures say 60 total active terrorists. Look, understand that in Jammu Kashmir, what is happening today is a sustainable level of terrorism indefinitely. However much security you bring in, there will still be some limited recruitment. It may be 4, it may be 5 people in the year. And there will be some infiltration. It may not even be across the border. There was a time when they were using the Nepal route to come in here. They will use other routes. They may use the sea route, travel across the country and come into Kashmir. So a handful of people can be brought in. Weapons can be thrown across the border on drones. So zero terrorism is a ridiculous idea, given the situation, environment, and Pakistan's intentions. But the security grid, now you said, do we need to do something different? We have to do something different every day. The adversary is adapting. We will also have to adapt to his tactics. We will have to adapt to his geographical shifts. We will have to adapt to the shift in targets. Today, they are targeting outsiders, workers, laborers. Tomorrow, they go to a vulnerable area in Jammu. Day after, they hit tourists in Pahalgam. He is constantly, as I said, this is not a blanket, it's a net, it's a grid. And to say nobody must be able to get through this grid, and if somebody gets through this grid, after the event, everything is an intelligence failure, everything is a security failure. But an actual intelligence failure is when you have intelligence of an impending operation, intelligence in which operational responses can be planned, and you fail to act. What happened in Sri Lanka was an intelligence and security failure. The targets had been defined. The time had, not even only the date, but the time had been defined because the Indian side had been listening in to their conversations. And action was not taken in the Easter bombings. That's a security failure. That's an intelligence failure. The fact that somebody managed to get through your grid. Now, of course, there's I've just seen this on some channels and interviews and things like that we had intelligence on these people's movement. What was the nature of the intelligence? I'll tell you, intelligence agencies and operatives, whether of the local police or of the center, do a great deal of what could be described as covering your own bottoms. So there's a whole lot of generalized assertions. There may be an attack of this nature. Terrorists may target such and such. That where there is no actionable content. And when an incident of this nature occurs, they will selectively extract those lines and say, no, but we said something like this could happen. The point was, did you identify a movement? Did you say 3 terrorists have been seen moving across such and such area? This is the last point of contact with them. And they could move into A, B, and C target areas. That's actionable intelligence. And if that actionable intelligence had been passed on to local authorities and to the security forces over there, and they failed to respond, then action should be taken against them. That's an intelligence failure. That's a security failure. There may be an attack. Is not an intelligence input. It's not a credible intelligence input. It's not an actionable intelligence input. I can tell you there can be an attack anywhere in Jammu and Kashmir. On tourists, yes, their tourists have been attacked before. In Pahalgam, 2 tourists were killed, I think, last year. A couple from Jaipur.
Ajai Sahni, thank you so much for your insights. This has been a very fascinating discussion on a subject that is really important. We don't know what's going to happen in the next few days and where the steps that India has taken are going to lead us and what next the government of India will do. But for now, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me.